Rare. I request Mr. K. Harikumar, Vice President of KMA and Program Chair, for welcome address and introduction of speakers.
President of KMA, the managing committee members, Mrs. T.P. Sreenivasan, Mr. Dhanuraj, former president of KMA, dear friends. KMA has chosen a topic of topical relevance, assessing the consequences of West Asia crisis, unraveling the socio-economic ripples. We all know that the war has started. We all know the crisis has started, but the ripples we are yet to start feeling, but somewhere it has already started. Historically, we all know that West Asia region has been strategic, political, cultural. It is a major center of the world affairs. And we also know that that is the origin of three major religions in the globe: Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. And this region, right from the beginning, has been at constant war. And every time we have been hearing about war, we have been hearing about terrorism, we have been hearing about counter-terrorism and whatnot. And this has happened at a time when the world is already plagued by a lot of other issues. We already have Ukraine war at one end. We all have recession in Europe at the other side. We also have African debt crisis is happening. And a lot of issues are happening across the globe. And this is one thing which has actually added fuel to the fire. And as you all know, any war or any crisis will have other issues like food, fuel, and other supply chain issues. And the RBI governor the other day was saying that the country can also start feeling the headwinds of this war in the coming 6 months of the economy. So probably our economic growth can also, GDP growth can also get affected. I'm not getting into more of this. I would now get into the topic of introduction of the distinguished guest. Mr. T.P. Sreenivasan, as you all know, is a columnist, is an author, he is a diplomat, he was an educationalist, he is a debater, and a regular face in the TVs. And he was a former ambassador to Fiji, other 8 South Pacific islands. He was ambassador to Austria, Kenya, and Slovenia. He had postings at the Indian mission at Tokyo, Moscow, New York, Yangon, and was also a permanent representative of India to the UN. He was also the governor for India at the International Atomic Energy Agency, Vienna. So I welcome you to this program, sir. It was very nice of you to have accepted our invitation and spent some time to come over, sir. I would now introduce Mr. Dhanuraj. He is the co-founder, chairman of the Center for Public Policy and Research. It's a non-profit independent public policy think tank based in Kochi. He is well-known in the international, national and state public policy space and is a noted speaker, panelist and thought leader at many policy debates. He is also a commentator on urbanization, urban mobility, infrastructure, education, retail, and the list goes on and on. I would welcome you also to this program. Okay, I would now request the President to kindly lead the discussion. Thank you very much.
distinguished guest, Sreenivasan, Dr. Dhanuraj, Honorary Secretary, Executive Committee members, executive members, and KMA members, students. In this program, we have around 60 students join our Zoom also. So it's not only this crowd, they are actually going from their respective colleges. We also have some faculty members joined from various institutes. So welcome for your virtual presence also. So coming back to this topic, I being working in the financial services, it is every day it is coming with a new news. Oil price is going up. There could be freight charges. There will be short supplies. There are a lot of things coming in. And in between, interestingly, Wells Fargo came out with an interesting research report on deglobalization. So we started the internet. When the internet came in, we thought we will have one single world and we will have liberty to move around. We can transfer data, information, and we can play around like a small globe is something a play tool for us. And I remember the book written by Friedman, and we thought the level playing field and all flat, world is flat. But after some time, after 2 decades or 2.5 decades, what we are seeing is more localization, deglobalization, and export import controls, so many things. So the report says that this particular issue in the West Asia will accelerate deglobalization, and therefore there will be impact and implication in the entire world economy. Already, as Harikumar said there is a crisis, economic crisis, war is already there, and so many things. Interestingly, that report is actually talking about for war there is no, it is all rule based according to UN, and you have a Geneva Convention and all, but there is no rule actually there for war. War is a war. It is actually creating more crisis. And the sad part is the leaders are safe always, both sides. And common man is actually suffering. Children are suffering, women suffering. That is actually outcome of the war. Then subsequently, years of developments actually we are destroying. Forget about the reason for the war, but the after impact is much bigger than what we are seeing. Though we have many thought leaders are talking against war, de-weaponizing, etc. But every day we are actually improving on our nuclear war weapons and other facilities for war. And war is today controlling the trade and economy. That is how the entire environment is. In this topic, actually, we have two intellectuals talking about us, what would be the impact of this in our, particularly in our state. We have a very close association with this region, not years of association with this region. And this region is always, we have seen many wars, Kuwait war, and I think from the 1947 onwards, we have been seeing war in this particular region. So that is why this is actually more important for us to discuss, and probably we may not be able to do much of things other than discussing. But let us understand from them what exactly the impact of this particular crisis. Thank you very much, and now over to you, sir. Here we will be listening.
Thank you very much for the Zoom introduction. It's very impressive. We already know all the issues that we need to interact with. And just at the stage, to ask, just to ask, share. What I see is that the rules of behavior in the world as established by the United Nations has completely crumbled. The global system developed after the Second World War is not in existence anymore. And therefore, we are looking for a new global order. That's what we are seeing since the beginning of the 20th century. So, every country in the world is dissatisfied with the situation. Every country has become, we say, revisionist. Every country wants to change its status and position to get to the leadership of the world in whatever way, as groups or as individual countries. Because on top of it is the struggle between the United States and China. At other levels, many countries trying to dominate their regions and countering other people. So it's a long process which has set in. Until a new global order is somehow established, we'll continue to see all these problems which are haunting us. It all started with 9/11. 9/11 was also connected with the Palestine issue. And today, the war in Gaza is also related to the Palestine issue. So there is a continuity and a continuum in this. And of course, the part of it is the reason is because the United States is supporting Israel to such an extent that it's impossible for the situation in the Middle East to be somehow clarified. But in the middle of all this, what happened was that many new coalitions were established. Countries became powerful in different parts of the world. And then the relative importance of each country was still uncertain. And so what we are seeing is this competition for dominance. What 9/11 did was it changed the whole concept of security. We used to think that whichever country has the largest number of nuclear weapons would be the most powerful. And that was completely shattered when the United States, which has the capacity to destroy the world 52 times, I don't know why they want to, was brought to its knees by 10 people who did not even have guns. Those all 10 people picked up their forks and knives and brought the United States down to the level of total inability to secure themselves. And so, and that situation has changed completely. Whether you have nuclear weapons, whether you have nuclear weapons or not, became irrelevant. So the balance that was held at that time, because of mutual assured destruction, that is what kept the world at peace. MAD, they say. Because the fear that the United States would destroy you if you did anything to them. And so, between the United States and Soviet Union, there was some kind of balance. And though we were saying at that time this should end and we should not have blocks, now we look back at that time with some kind of nostalgia. We could expect things, what would happen if one country does something, what would the other do? And that balance is also gone. And then we faced the economic crisis, 2007. And that was a very serious situation. We did not feel that much here because we were already using black money and that was even an American said that 40% of his wealth was lost in the crisis. No Indian said that we got 40% because the 40% was not there. Everything was black money. And so we did not feel that. Nobody said to me that I lost 20%. And that is because of our, and Dr. Manmohan Singh, who knew the situation, I think helped the Americans to understand that. But still we have the impact of that. And the third was the pandemic. Totally unexpected. Nobody had expected. In fact, United States had dismantled the pandemic control organization. President Bush said that it was not necessary. It's not going to come. And President Obama supported it, saying that we will not have any kind of disease United States because we have the technology, we have the medical, so it will not happen. And then he added to it, but then we have to be careful because such things may happen elsewhere in the world. And then somewhere from Africa or from Asia, this disease could be brought to the United States because of the aircraft availability and traveling. And that was all that he was ready to deal with. And what we saw was, we were afraid of these diseases coming from the United States to here. Do you remember that? It was the United States which was affected mostly, and it was the lack of cooperation around the world, that made it such a serious thing. Otherwise, the vaccines could have been made by collaboration, but everybody was developing its own vaccine. And the Security Council could not even meet once. Such a threat to international peace and security. Because China was suspected of having created it. And China happened to be the chairman of the Security Council that month. And they would not call even a meeting. So again, the total difference that it brought about in every sector of the world. And then we have the Russia-Ukraine war. So while this was going on and all these people were trying to figure out how to readjust to the modern world in the generation, one thing was forgotten was the Palestine issue, which was behind each one of these. Because everyone thought that Israel could have good relations with the Arabs, and therefore the problem of Palestine will be solved. And the first one to do it was in Egypt. And when Egypt signed the Camp David Accords, the entire non-aligned movement wanted to throw Egypt out of it. This was in Havana when we were having the summit. The reaction of the whole world was to throw Egypt out of non-aligned movement, saying that they have made a contract with the devil. But what happened after that? Gradually and slowly, about 6 or 7, the latest being Bahrain, UAE, and we are at the point of Saudi Arabia joining this. And so what was neglected was the fact that there was a fundamental issue regarding the Palestine matter, which was accepted by the United Nations. The United Nations established 2 states, Israel and Palestine. Israel has not only been established, it become bigger and bigger after each war. And Palestine was completely lost in the process. And they continue to remain in what is generally, Israeli state. Gaza and West Bank are not independent places that belong to Israel is in control of that situation. So that was misunderstood that could be a permanent solution. 2 states theory was not really necessary. And the Egypt and the Israelis did a very good job of getting, cultivating the Arab states. And slowly and gradually, this issue was being put on the back burner as it were. And so they realized that if this goes on for a few more months, Palestine will be completely put. Already there are combinations like India, Israel, US, UAE, there is a quad, unthinkable a few months ago. Then you have I2, U2, and so many new developments took place, and so a new global order was being built over this period. And that is when I think the Palestinians, particularly Hamas, decided that this is the time to strike. If you did not strike now, the whole question of Palestine will be forgotten. The new global order. And that is what's happening. Israel, Iran and Saudi Arabia are joining together. China negotiating a deal between Saudi Arabia and Iran. These are things which were unthinkable before. So all this is happening and none of us ever thought what happened to this original sin of the world. And that was being forgotten. So my feeling is that this whole thing was brought about by Palestinians generally, even though Hamas not Palestinian in that sense, but now the Palestinians, the more moderate Palestinians also consider Hamas to be an operating force, not just a terrorist organization. And so now we have reopened the whole question. In fact, today we are getting signals from Saudi Arabia. They have abandoned the whole idea of peacemaking with Israel because it is not tenable anymore. And therefore, there is an awakening among the Arab countries that something has to be done about Palestine. But as long as United States and Israel are so strongly bonded together, so we are heading towards a totally uncertain situation. Biden's visit to Israel was very significant. But it was significant in the sense that this was to go and express solidarity. He did not go there to make peace. That was not his intention. Nobody is talking about even a ceasefire. In fact, you know that the ceasefire resolution produced by Brazil has been vetoed by the United States. What is that to veto? A ceasefire is being asked for, and of course it was not done. But what the United States standing up at this moment to veto a resolution on ceasefire was very grave. So we are going to have a complete reorganization of the world, and some of the trends that we have seen in the last few years will now be reversed. Yeah, we have been very close to Palestine. And I made all those speeches in the United Nations on Palestine. And the Israelis would ask me, why are you so strong? What are you losing? Because we used to write better English than the Palestinians. So our speeches were more forceful. We were in the Palestine committee. And the most visible supporters of the Palestine. But not even once the Israelis attack us. And this is very significant because Israel said that this is the only country in the world which did not persecute the Jews. They were very happy in India. They said, you go say anything in the security. We will not attack because we love India. And that was the situation. But then we always had, again, this is the state secret which I am revealing. We had contacts with Israel at various levels, even at that time. It was not publicized. In fact, Moradi Desai publicized because and British MP to see him and told him that you should not keep away from Israel. Like it's an important country. India must cultivate Israel. So Moradi could not resist. So this man went on lecturing and finally said, look, do you know that Moshe Dayan was here 3 days ago? Nobody knew. They were in the Ministry of External Affairs. We didn't know Moshe Dayan. And the poor Undersecretary who took down notes, she wrote this and gave it to the foreign secretary. The foreign secretary said, sack this person for recording. I said, you have to sack your prime minister. So there have been a long period of cooperation in irrigation, water supply, a little bit of Mossad. All this we had with Israel. But in 1992, why did we establish a mission in Israel? Not because of Israel. Because we wanted to get close to the Americans. Once it became a unipolar world, everybody wanted to be friendly with them. Best way was to be friendly with the Israelis. Jews. The Jews determined the policies of the United States. And that is why suddenly we opened this mission and we opened a new relationship with the US. So now the details that we are now interested in. So to summarize, what we are seeing today, this Hamas attack has halted the process towards a new global order. We claim that G20, that we are having a conference on Sunday, where I was going to argue that we have established some blocks, building blocks of a new world. Like the global south, like a neutral position on Russia. But now nobody will even acknowledge it. On Sunday, I don't know what we'll talk about. We'll talk about maybe Israel, Arab Israel. He's also participating. Because G20 has ceased to be sexy. Nobody is. Okay, I think I already have spoken too much, but please give us your perspective. Need not be a question answer.
Thank you so much. I think it's a wonderful start for this conversation. the ambassador D.P. Sreenivasan always, gives a lot of insights and shares his experience that probably none of us would get it from the textbooks, right? So I always listen to him, and he's one of my mentors also. Last 20 years, keep discussing all these international developments. So I thought, thank you. I thank the Kerala management for giving us this opportunity to discuss this very relevant topic. My initial, probably I just said I share my thoughts on this conflict. I don't want to go back to what happened in the past, but what would have led to October 7th? I think the whole world taken aback or probably shaken when we saw those pictures and videos in the morning. Because I was traveling from Delhi the previous night and walk up and see, all our mobile phones are clogged with these messages. Something is happening in Israel and Palestine. And I'll start with 3-4 points. What would have led to October 7th? So just shared. I'm just adding to what he said. I think this is also a question of global leadership now, post-Cold War. Leadership of the United States. Because we all believe in a global liberal order established by United States of America for the last many decades. And post-Cold War, this is I am a researcher, so I start with point by one. Point number one is 1991 Kuwait-Iraq war, when Senior Bush decided to send their troops and decided to liberate Kuwait. And post that war, if I'm not wrong, there was something called Madrid Conference. And the Madrid Conference was probably US realized that now the Cold War is over. Kuwait is getting liberalized, and this is a channel for probably opening a door for the United States to set their agenda in Middle East. So they called for a conference in Madrid in 1992. But in that equation, they invited most of the Middle East players, but I don't think they invited Iran. I think that was one of the glaring, when you look back, Iran was not part of the Middle East plans of United States of America, or apparently that was the impression given to the Middle East countries. Later, 9/11 happened, and then Junior Bush decided to go to war, go to Iraq. And Iraq was headed by, President Saddam Hussein, we all know. So, he was a Sunni leader, but the majority of Iraq was Shia. And Saddam Hussein was toppled, and that gave another opportunity for Iran to get into the Iraq crisis. For me, that's another second point. The third point is about probably Abraham Accords. In Abraham Accords, when we look at it, I see Morocco, Bahrain, UAE. Most of the countries, I don't think, have any influence on Palestine or on Israel. And the conceptual understanding was US is able to make a breakthrough in Middle East crisis, or they are able to influence countries like Israel by having this. And I believe that was a balanced act on China's emergence in the region. But in the process, I believe they forgot. There are other important issues like Palestine, humanitarian, because in the global liberal order, the humanitarian part plays a significant role. This became a transaction business. And my fourth point is, I think when Donald Trump, President Trump withdrew from Iranian nuclear deal, it gives another opportunity for a country like Iran. I'm not saying Iran is the player behind all these things, but just trying to understand the Middle Eastern politics, how it evolved in the last 30, 40 years. And now President Biden, when he, he's trying to reapproach Saudi Arabia. Something that is being discussed was Saudi wants to have nuclear weapon, and of course Israel has it. Israel is only one country in the Middle East region that has got a nuclear weapon. And now Saudi Arabia is also, because Biden has gone back to the Senate and asked for this. I think this has all these developments, 3-4 points I mentioned, has culminated into a kind of insecurity feeling in the Middle East. Whereas 1970s Middle East is different from 2000s Middle East. We had oil crisis, oil stocks and everything. But today Middle East is a very prosperous, rich region. And like Sir said, I think in the whole process, Palestine cause was completely ignored. And I believe the leadership of Middle East, whether it is Saudi or UAE, they were actually looking for a more prosperous. I think they were also induced, and they were also excited by the fact that Israel is running a technology-driven economy, so we should be closer to Israel. But I don't think that was the feeling on the streets of Arab countries. And that is what they are realizing it now. I think still they are trying to manage it. Probably, my first question, I'm just setting the tone for my side to have this conversation forward, take this conversation forward. So, I mean, when you look at, you can correct me if, some of my points are, from your experience, whether that is rightly analyzed by me. But in case of the present administration, one thing I see everywhere is when Biden took over, I think the expectation in the Middle East was that he will be different from President Trump. Has it played a major role in this? And even yesterday's televised address of President Biden, we expect this is what we could expect from American president. But still, then two questions. One, what was left by leftovers of President Trump, and the continuity of what President Biden is trying to do, does it have a huge influence on the Middle Eastern crisis?
Thank you. I think we agree on most of the points. Essentially, the point that Palestinians being neglected in the new world order is clearly the reason. And they have now disturbed it and destroyed it. The Saudi Arabia is never come for many years. But we agree. Of course, the American position is who is the architect of Israel-Middle East relationship? And that is Trump. Trump's son-in-law is the one who operated the whole. And so he built on the premise that if Israel can build up relations with the Middle East, then since the Middle East is already under the control of the United States, they will be able to build up their own Pax America. And that was his vision. And Biden is pursuing the same. He is not objecting to any collaboration between the Arabs and Israel. He is encouraging it. And so when 9/11 came, many people said that this is all because of Palestine. We talked about that, but nobody looked at. Everybody said you have to solve the fundamental issue, which is Palestine. Otherwise, there will be no peace. But what he did was he fought a war with the Afghans, Taliban, and so on. In 30 years, nothing changed. He went to remove Taliban, and 30 years later, he put Taliban in power and left. So 30 years of war and what, $600 billion. And then the same Taliban was put in order to grab peace and he came home. So this is a circular position. These things keep going. So the wisdom that we have to gain from all this till today is that you have to find a solution to Palestine. And what is that solution? That solution has already been outlined. That is two nations. Actually, two nations are established. Only thing is one nation was established, the other one did not. So the concept was land for peace. Remember? So that means the Palestinians will become satisfied provided they have land. And then they will give peace to Israel. That was the concept. And in the Oslo agreement, that was the principle. And with the Israelis accepted that we have to give them land. But what they did was not land for peace, but people for peace. So what they did was they thought they could adjust the people in the West Bank and Gaza and give them some freedom, and not in terms of giving them any land. They have not given any land to Palestine. Even now they are in somebody else's. And so that Oslo Accord may have been successful even if they had given the existing positions to Israel and made them independent. So the capital of Jerusalem, all that is complicated. But that land for peace idea was pursued and both the states were established in some form. Then we would not have run into the proper times. So Americans are very, very crucial in this, and they would not budge. You know the reason, because United States is dependent on Israel for a lot of things, technology, medicine, money. There are more Jews in New York than in Israel. So that's why we call New York Times, not New York. And I know for a fact that the President of the United States takes no decision on the Middle East without discussing it with the Israeli ambassador in the United States. He was the most powerful diplomat because he had the greatest access to the White House. He was like a part of it. And that's why, as I said, we established our relations with Israel basically to get close to the United States. That's the way. And therefore, there is no question of any kind of compromise the United States on Israel. And in that way, I think both Trump and Biden are pursuing the same. The difference is that the Chinese have become a major actor. They are keeping quiet. They are not saying anything. Nothing is being said. Iran is asking China to get involved in the conflict. What a dangerous thing that is. That will bring China and the United States to a war. It will become a global war if that happens. But the Chinese are keeping quiet, but they have done their bit by bringing Iran and Saudi Arabia together. And the credit has gone to them. We have lost out on our relationship with Iran because of the arrival of China, the railway line, various things. We have a traditional relationship with Iran, but for two reasons that's being disturbed. One is because of the US, because of the nuclear angle, and the other because of China. So there are these problems which contributed to the concern that Palestine developed. And now, if this is reversed, most of these Arab countries come back to support Palestine and are willing to fight a war, then we will be back to square one. And that is the problem we have. And Trump did another thing. He destroyed the United Nations. He actually went into the United Nations and said, we don't need this organization. He says, as far as I'm concerned, America first. You are concerned, your country, India is first. So why do we need each other? We keep on pursuing our interests because we are the first. So he virtually declared that the United Nations established by the US is redundant. And it has become redundant. So that is another pitfall. Again, same thing is applied for China. With China, we have so many agreements since Panchashi, then 62 war, 88 Rajiv Gandhi goes and signs an agreement, 93 Narasimha Rao goes and signs another agreement. So we had built up a large number of agreements with China, not to solve anything, but at least to get secure peace for them. But now China has disowned each one of them. That is why Mr. Jaishankar keeps saying that we have no basis for a relationship. There's nothing to discuss. Because they have said Panchil doesn't exist, 88 doesn't exist, 93 doesn't exist. Then what is there to talk about? And therefore they have not withdrawn from several areas which they have occupied. So that's a complex situation. I think we agree on these kind of complexities, but nobody can really predict exactly how this will go. And the result so far is the destruction of the Saudi Arabia, Israel, and all is the immediate result of this. And that will spiral out.
So the international media have been discussing there will be a regional war or it will lead to a global war. But now tomorrow is the 14th day of the war, October 7th was Saturday. But what I could gather is nobody wants to go for a war. Iran, though they are very rhetoric on their, we will go and attack, it's ready, time for us to get into war. But I believe there is a parallel talk conversation going on. That's also the reason I think Prince Salman had a conversation with the Iranian president yesterday. So nobody wants to have a war. I mean, even though they're very rhetoric. And I also have a feeling, we could give more insights. Israel military doesn't have that field experience, probably like Indian army. They do it on a day-to-day basis. They're very technology driven, and all these wars, second wars, the Israel-Arab war, and all were like 6 days, 10 days, 14 days, 17 days, 6 days. And otherwise, they are doing all this intelligentsia-based war or technology-based war. So nobody wants to have a war. What do you think?
Yeah, I also feel that there will be no problem. Nobody will be foolish enough. But regional war is possible. It's quite possible for an Arab attack. If people in Gaza or they make an effort to eliminate. The idea is to push them into the West Bank. Say West Bank is Israel, Jordan is Israel. There are good arguments. And so that can elicit a regional conflict. But whether Iran will go and fight it, I doubt it very much, because Iran is financially very weak. And the oil politics has changed. Americans don't need the oil. That's another thing we have to know. But they can now sell oil to the Middle East. And therefore, that has changed completely the relationship between the United States. They fought the war in Iraq for oil. But now they have their own oil. They don't have people to carry it. So that also has changed the dynamics. So who will go and fight a war?
But this is also raises a question about why Israel was not able to detect or stop this attack.
Well, this
It's
is
much celebrated.
Yes, it
Israeli.
was considered to be completely secure, the Iron Dome, and they could not have bombed from outside. They had to go inside, and that, how did they manage 1,000 people intruding into the so-called solid Iron Dome? And then finding them became difficult. Even today, they have not killed everybody that way. And that is a big mystery. That to be explained technologically by some people. They managed to do that. But one thing, my answer to that is nobody, if a man is willing to sacrifice his life, nobody can stop him. No Iron Dome. So the point is that he feels that he has sacrificed his life for a cause. And then nobody can stop him. Israeli prime ministers have been killed. So security is not absolute against a terrorist. The president was talking about Dhamma, Kurukshetra, everybody went to sleep in the evening, and then morning they got that kind of war is not existing. And all these Vienna conventions and Geneva conventions, are or reached to that observed. So it's a kind of all war, and then cyber warfare would be another possibility. So you cannot measure the power of a country. If you can destroy the banking system of a country by cyber warfare, why do you need to kill anybody? I need to kill. They'll all go and commit suicide.
But do you anticipate a land invasion?
Land invasion in Gaza is possible. And that is what
But
I
though
think.
for the last 5 days now, Israel is saying we are ready. Nothing happened.
But the whole world is trying to stop that. If that happens, then we'll be a bloodshed. Totally. So that is, I think, Biden's idea also. To have a land war like that. And give them humanitarian assistance, give a corridor. He also gave $100 million, for the Palestinians. So I don't think there will be an all-out war. And Israel might itself be held back from the idea of driving them. How can 1.1 million people move in 1 week? To anywhere. So there, I think there might be a response.
Now, we are also expected to discuss the consequences of West Asia crisis in Kerala. I was reading somewhere we have got around 16,000 Indians in Israel and more or less 8,000 Malayalis, half of them are in Kerala. And it's also been told that we have got around 85,000 Indian Israelis. I mean, those who use I get it from here. And as of now, we don't. I mean, the oil prices raising. I think $90 per barrel. But since even then, I think the expectation is, or we believe that this is not going to shock the world the way it was shocked in 1973, because both Israel is not a producer, and those parties now involved, as long as Iran is not getting involved, and I strongly believe Saudis or UAEs don't want to get into this because that will affect their economies.
Sharia is increase their
Yes, production.
that the prices.
And in fact, this is also like during Ukraine-Russia war, Saudi actually worked with Russia to export. So it is sometimes beyond our calculations and framework. Sometimes this works in a different way. But what do you think? Are we Indian establishment, government of India, Prime Minister Modi tweeted immediately. He said we are standing by Israel. We understand that this is. He said it's act of terrorism, Hamas. But do you think we will have a government intervention? I mean, intervention meaning, everybody talks about, Israel. One of Israel ex-minister said, Modi magic. We expect a Modi magic. But do you think the government of India play a crucial role in West Asian crisis, especially we have huge diaspora in the region?
No, I don't think we have any kind of role. Basically because of our position of Palestine is very good. And they know that if you scratch an Indian is for Palestine. So Israel is a demand of the times. So we are not fully trusted as a but of course Mr. Modi has this image. But let's talk with Russia and Ukraine in the south. So similarly, the role of India is exaggerated in a peacemaking process. Because we don't, of course, some of the old solutions they were actually corrupted by the Indian diplomats, the KMA parliament. So for that we are very good. We are very good draftsmen. You take over here, change over there, and change this person. But we are not in a position of playing a big power role Chinese, that are involved in the Saudis. I don't think they will look at us. But as far as our presence of the people are concerned, not only in Israel, we also in the Middle East, we have millions of Malayalis. And any upstaging of the situation, economic situation, will have a reflection on us. Already a lot of people from Israel have come back, even though they were not very keen to come away. My advice to them was they can stay because the war will not come into Israel. Now the war will be fought outside. They will not allow any, thing to happen within Israel. So our people are fairly safe. Actually, they are required there. They are looking after all people. And many people have not come away. They are very small percent. So it will have implications for us. But how it will be, 8,000 people coming back will not cause any strain on us. But we need to have stability in the Middle East. And but these people going to Israel was a big surprise to me for jobs and with all these risks involved. So normally when we talk about whenever a war erupts, you suddenly find Malayalis there. Before that, we had not heard about, most people have not heard about Ukraine. And in fact, I heard about Malayalis there in 2014 when the first clash took place in Ukraine. 30 medical students landed up in my office because I was in education. They wanted 30 seats, medical seats for them to study. I said, what were you doing there? How did you get there? Nobody would give an answer. No. What way the government is totally unaware. And so that happens. Suppose tomorrow in Zimbabwe there's a problem, you will suddenly find Malayalis. So you never know where. That general concern is there. Like the Palestinian ambassador was saying, Modi must just go and sort it out. And that kind of standing we do not have. We have been friendly with all of them, but that's not it. It should have some kind of power to enforce. I don't think. Maybe I think we should stop here and ask this audience to ask some questions. I hope we have provoked you enough.
Sir, it has been very comforting to listen to you discussions here, in the sense that your assertion that the current situation may not escalate into a global war, at worst, regional conflict or something like that is very comforting. But at least some of the analysts are of the view that yesterday's Oval Office address of the US President is much more serious. It implicates, it is more than a war, but it's a forceful statement drawing a line and compelling all the nations in the world to take sides on either side of that. I don't know whether these sources are very reliable or are studied as you are, but it has been quite frightening. At least some of the views in respect of the statement by Biden, asking for such a huge allotment of funds and all that. What's your take on that?
Yesterday was in Channel 24 discussion, and Verno was the anchor. At one point, they started an argument as to what Biden meant. Why did he say the other team rather than saying nothing? So they went into an over analysis of the whole situation. They are fighting with each other. I said finally, there are certain unchangeables in this whole world. It is established. That is, United States in all circumstances will support Israel. What he wanted to say was to convey that message. Whether he said this was done by you, and that analysis is meaningless. Because you have to take it for granted that the American position, whatever he said, was to support Israel. So you don't need to analyze it, it should be accepted as. And we should also accept what shall we say, the strong word to say, hypocritical, but the Arabs are also, their mind is focused on their own development. And therefore, more than among themselves, they look outwardly for. So you know the Arab world, they change their holiday system. You know that. From Friday to Sunday they change. Why? Just for the Israelis. I mean, so such a fundamental thing as a Islamic faith, they were willing to adjust it for. Because Israelis will not be working on, on a Friday and that Sunday they will not work. So that shows the practicality of the Arabs and the kind of concessions that Saudi Arabia has made for internal in itself is very significant. It's almost revolutionary. So all these are there. So these are kind of fixed points. These cannot change. And all that is happening in present day is leaving these landmarks there. And those will not change. And therefore, any analysis should be based on the fact that there are some fundamental positions which do not change. So Biden's saying doesn't, I don't think that it's a call for war.
I don't think this $100 billion US will go to them immediately because there's no speaker. So, and also I think it's also a way to pacify the other side of the Congress, where Republicans were, I'm sure they will be happy to give some money to Ukraine now.
Yeah, but that's what's happening. They will get more money.
I'll slightly suboptimize the topic, coming closer home. In the sense, there are 3 E's that are coming our way. One is the elections turned offing. The economy is on the edge right now. We are on the edge of a recession. And finally, the environment that we are in, living conditions are getting a little bad, particularly in Kerala. And Kerala, particularly, the CM has openly gone into castigate Israel and support Palestine. That being the situation, particularly in terms of the election when you have a Bharat versus India. So there is going to be a bit of a leaning towards Palestine there. Will that affect the outcome of the election results? Then the economy takes us up. And then the environment changes. What is your take on that?
I try not to comment on internal matters. Foreign policy there.
Yeah,
But Mr. Modi's foreign policy has got implications for the general situation that we should recognize. And also his vision that India will be a leader of the world. That's only his dream. India as a leader of the world is, we have created we have produced Mahatma Gandhi. That's enough for India to be the leader of the world. Nothing more we need to do. So fundamentally we have that. But the economics is different. His statement on the war would have been perfect if he had added Palestine in that statement. And that is fundamental. He should have had to say it. He should have said that, but he said it 2 days later, by then the damage was done. Otherwise, it was excellent because we cannot encourage any kind of terrorism. Because if today Hamas wins, then we'll have problems. So that is perfect. Terrorism you mentioned. And we are with Israel at this time of grief was fine. And if he had added the fundamental issue also to that, then this problem will not have arisen. And that is why here communist parties, etc., started suddenly becoming calling it always with that Palestine. And so, so I can't really say what its impact will be on Indian situation. But we on the economy, we have 2 contrary news, no? That we are doing so well that it will be 2 years from now overtake Japan. So all this, I don't know. I cannot make out whether this is true or not. Nobody else is saying that. Only we have here saying it. And this is an election propaganda also. So when we took the leadership of G20, we started the 2024 election campaign. So I can't really say much about it. But Kerala situation can be difficult. People have to come back. Not from Israel, but there's a regional war. We may have to take on sometimes. Also, our businesses might lose money in the Gulf. And in any case, even if the Ukraine-Russia war continues, we'll all be in trouble. Another year means shortage of energy, shortage of food, shortage of everything. And our linkages with Russia are also becoming weaker. They are not getting the kind of weapons they are contracted for. 400 is not available. So then China coming in is the biggest danger. Then they will go much against us. But I hope it not. They are interested in keeping the world prosperous. And only they can do this. Anything else? I don't know what time you're doing.
Sir, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
I'm a dentist by profession, totally from a layman's perspective. I have two questions. One is actually we know that that Israel had the diplomatic relationship with some of the Arab, countries in Middle East, including UAE, Bahrain, and Saudi Arabia. And do you think that I think probably this could be a pain in rear side for a few of the countries, whether the countries, a few of the countries, the section of the world is not really looking for a healthy diplomatic relationship of Israel to Arab countries for a long duration. That's one thing. And secondly, I was just noticing the news, that is from Tuesday. On Tuesday, they had a bombardment on a hospital at Gaza, and 450 to 500 people were died. But I was really noticing that thousands of people were really dead or murdered in the war, even before that. But this incident alone was highlighted. And based on that sole incident, many of the Arab countries or some of the countries, including Iran, declared national condolence and all for 3 days and all. Why he took it up? Why that incident alone was highlighted and given due importance, knowing that thousands of the people already dead for the same reason.
Symbolically, it is different, isn't it? You're fighting, terrorists and then bombing a hospital. They are two different. But of course, and Israel has denied that. They did not have to do it. But I don't think, I have a feeling that they wouldn't have wanted to bomb the hospital. My feeling, Israel, because why they can kill others, why should they go and bomb the hospital and get the anger of the world? So it could have been a mistake. And so that is not so important. But the relationship with the Arab countries were developing toward Israel. And if that stops, there will be a lot of consequences. So the whole economy of the Middle East is now developing towards this kind of linkages. You go to Dubai today, you only see Israelis there, not Westerners, white people all over the world. And everything is changing, property, prices, hotels. People are, going after the Israelis to gain whatever they can. And that will be disturbed, then the whole situation will be reversed in some form. Yeah.
I think, see, last 30 years, the Middle East was not at peace. It's a very good building. We are not discussing having a discussion like this. I think more than 100,000 people died in Iraq. More than Yemen, then Syria, millions. But we're not discussing that. Right. But the symbol is very important. So when you bomb a hospital, of course, that will invite the global anger.
As the lady, first lady.
Hi, I'm Samrita from St. Institute of Management. I'm a first year MBA student. So you have mentioned that if this crisis is going on, it will affect globally. So what strategies can be employed to mitigate the long-term socio-economic consequences?
Again, not my topic. I wish we knew what to handle this. But one comforting thought, as he said, is that somehow we find our way through this. You know, much bigger crises have happened in the world, some way or the other. And that is the only thing I can say. Economic and social consequences in a direct way will be very serious. But something good may happen, some accident may happen. So other than that, you cannot really, draw a map of what will happen. End up with Dhanuraj.
I think one of the possibilities, I'm sure, and that's it, there could be a leadership change in Israel post-war. Benjamin Netanyahu, I'm sure he'll be, there'll be some inquiry commission or something will happen and say, like, what you people doing on these funds? Because leading to this October 7th, there was a lot of domestic issues they are facing, and this actually digressed their attention from the intelligence that they used to have, or they should have given attention. And though I think Egypt had won, US also claims that they had won them, but they didn't give attention. So I'm sure there will be some court inquiry, so probably I believe there will be new leadership in Israel. If I'm not wrong, 93, 94, we have also Accord, and then Shimon Peres, Rabin, and then finally in 1996, Netanyahu was inducted into this because there was this crisis of, Hamas was emerging in 1987. So something similar to that, I'm sure this will repeat after this, change in the leadership of the region. And that probably could change the whole conversation discourse.
Somebody said 3 things we'll do straight away. Bomb out Hamas, remove Netanyahu, and the United States takes over this. All problems solved.
Yeah, last question.
Mike.
Thank you. Just a question about how this messes up our plans about the corridor that was announced during G20. There's supposed to be Mumbai or Bangalore, about the Adani corridor. Mumbai, Mundra, Fujairah, Devlali, and to Haifa. And also on the side, I think all the years thereafter. And also on the sides, I think in August we had negotiations with Iran on Chabahar and about the arbitration clause and so on. So we're doing both of that on the side. Now it looks like we stand to lose both at this point. That's what do you think about it? The first question. The second question is, largely the narrative has been that the problem in Israel has been a European problem foisted upon the Middle East because of the Nazi atrocities there. But nobody seems to acknowledge the attacks that have happened to ethnic Jewish communities in the Middle East over the years. Do you think that also has been contributed to this? Thank you.
We are going into a conference on G20 on Sunday. And I think I have to rewrite the whole paper. Because this corridor itself was a dream. It had nothing to do with G20. It was a bilateral thing between UAE, India, Israel, and US. And nobody knew where the money would come from. And then somebody said this is contrary to the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative. Belt and Road Initiative goes into trillions. And that kind of money is not available. And Belt and Road Initiative has also been discredited because many countries are going to Sri Lanka. So many countries have given up the Belt and Road Initiative. So this is not meant to be accountable. But people say reading about this project, you think that this kind of a dream project. And it is not supported by any kind of finance. So it cannot make any difference. So most of the things that we formulated in D20 will completely collapse next few years. Even this whole idea of the South, global South, and where is Vasudhaiva? One world, was it? One country.
Is it a mistake, not a mistake, in fact, one problem global South wants to have was India is with Palestine. I mean, generally.
No, this has divided the global South immediately. No, see, what we did was we did a very clever thing, since we said this UN cannot be reformed, so we'll reform it. So we just reformed it unilaterally. We took out the chairmanship, Vasudhaiva Kudumba. When Chinese asked, what is this Vasudhaiva Kudumba? We don't understand. Who gave you this thing, Nobody. So this was a real coup in the sense that we just took over charge of the world. But within so few days it collapsed like that, nobody get that. So and in fact, I have a feeling that the success of the G20 may have become a reason for some envy in the world. And these Canadians and the Chinese and all that are a little irritated. What is Indians who say we are consulted 125 countries? They are not in G20. They are G20 chairman only. So we say that in fact, I asked this question to Jayashankar in my own interview with him the other day. Because he had his arguments. But now, after a few days, it really looks different, the whole scenario that we had. But that's natural, because you again have to look at the decisions in the context of what we had at that time. Now, with hindsight, we cannot criticize the Prime Minister, but he did create some of these things towards the new global order. If it has sustained, okay, and the last question is over.
I just want to answer the question about elections. Since I work in some election analysis, some of our recent, we talked to the psychologists and those, during the time of G20, there was a lot of interest in global affairs, even going to rural areas. Because I think every Indian is aspiring India become the Vasudhaiva Kudumba. And it will be very interesting. Yesterday, I don't know how many of you watched, we have the Seawater survey on India Today. And they actually asked this question, how Indians are responding to, what is India's take, Indian voters' take on Palestine-Israel conflicts. And they found around 30, it's not even crossed 50%, 50 mark. 42%. 42% of Indians say that what Prime Minister said was right. But then they analyzed it, they found among the BJP NDA voters about 68%. The opposition is always opposition, ruling is always ruling. That is also reflected.
You didn't say who you been.
Lord President Sreenivasan, Distinguished Ambassador TP Sreenivasan, Dr. Dhanuraj, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Today's evening is very special and unique to KMA because for two reasons. One, this program or this topic is chosen because of the response or demand from the members. Many members have asked for a discussion. So this is a popular members' choice. Secondly, in this year, this is the first time we are having, instead of a lecture, we are having a conversation. And that's also for a topic like this on a war. It is always better to have a nuanced conversation rather than a lecture, because in life and in the world and in war, it is not only black and white, it is always a gray. And what a astounding or the profound way the perspective is put by Ambassador, being a diplomat who chooses his words very, very carefully. And he has put forward the perspective in such a nice manner, and to give us a balance to that, we have a researcher with a logical mind. And so we got the researchers are always come out with hypothesis and an anti-hypothesis. So you don't say this is the thing. So it's a good thing that the West Asia crisis is not reflected here. It was a very cool kind of a conversation. No war, not like the 24 channel discussion which we had yesterday. The channel discussion. So thank you, Ambassador, and thank you, Dr. Dhanuraj, for accepting our invitation on a short notice and coming here. And I request our President, Mr. Balakrishnan, to present a memento to both our guests.
You produce a memento in short notice.
Yes. It's a live photograph. We are ready to ask. And you will not forget your Ravinya Shakti is also there.
But they have an old picture.
So it's nice.
I think it's the Israeli technology.
Let me thank each one of you for joining on this weekday, the evening, and also many members are there online, student members and faculty members of more than 50 are there currently. So thank you all, and our next program is on 26th. Program chair Mr. Harikumar himself is talking to us on an interesting topic, or not. I would say rather a story about ECC on 26th October 2023 at same venue. I request all to join, and our corporate cricket league chairman is here. It's on 18th November at Parkway, Kalmasiri. All corporates who are not registered, please do register. And Mr. Bibu, International Management Convention, I am repeating the dates, 18th and 19th January. Please note 18th and 19th January, International Convention, the flagship event of KMA. Thank you. Have a great evening. Good night. Will once national anthem.